Hey there, I'm Mia. I'm 32, thriving in the marketing world, and living a life that looks like a dream on the outside. We've got the picture perfect setup: a beautiful house in the suburbs, my amazing husband Derek, and our little boy Jack, who's 5 and the absolute light of my life. On social media, we're that family everyone loves to love and secretly hates. But trust me, appearances can be very deceiving. It all began when I first met Derek's family. His sister Margaret seemed nice enough, but there was something a little off about her. And then there was their mother, Sandra. Sandra smiled at me like a shark circling its prey. During our first dinner, she looked me up and down and said, "Oh, Maya dear, that dress is interesting." I'm sure it was quite fashionable a few years ago. I plastered on my best fake smile and replied, "Thanks, Sandra. I just love vintage." Derek squeezed my hand under the table, blissfully unaware of the tension. As time passed, things only got weirder. Margaret was always dashing off somewhere, using vague excuses about work or meeting friends, but it never quite added up. One night, I mentioned it to Derek. "Hey, doesn't it seem like Margaret's been acting a little strange lately?" He just shrugged. "That's just Margaret being Margaret. You know how she is." But I couldn't shake the feeling. Thank God for my best friend and work buddy Allison. She's been my rock through all this chaos. "Girl, your in-laws sound like a nightmare," she said over lunch one day. "You have no idea," I replied, rolling my eyes. Sandra's backhanded comments, Margaret's sneaky behavior, it's just a lot. Little did I know, things were about to escalate. One Tuesday night, I was working late, finishing up a big presentation. As I was packing up to leave, I noticed Margaret's car in the office parking lot. "Weird," I muttered. Curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to peek through the office windows. There she was, in what should have been an empty conference room, arguing with a man who definitely wasn't her husband. They spoke in hushed, urgent tones, but I managed to catch snippets. "You promised me," the man hissed. "I want what's mine." Margaret looked panicked. "I'll get it, I swear. I just need more time." My heart was racing. What on earth was going on? I watched as Margaret handed the man an envelope. He glanced inside, nodded, and left. I ducked behind a cubicle as Margaret rushed out, her face a mask of worry. Once she was gone, I bolted to my car, my mind spinning. Was Margaret involved in something illegal? The next few days were a blur. I couldn't get the image of Margaret and the mystery man out of my head. What was in that envelope? Money? Drugs? My imagination went wild. I tried to act normal around Derek, but he noticed. "Babe, you okay? You seem distracted," he asked one morning over breakfast. "Just work stuff," I lied, feeling guilty. How could I tell them what I'd seen? Sandra's behavior got even stranger. She began showing up unannounced, her eyes narrowing as though trying to read my mind. "Ma, dear, you look tired. Is everything all right?" she'd ask, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I'm fine, Sandra. Just busy with work," I'd say, gritting my teeth. I had to tell someone, so I called Allison for an emergency lunch. When I spilled everything, she leaned in, wide-eyed. "Holy crap, what are you going to do?" she whispered. I sighed. Part of me wants to confront Margaret, but you're scared of what you'll find out? Allison finished for me. "This is serious. Be careful." Apparently, the universe wasn't about to let me take it slow. That weekend was Derek's birthday, and Sandra insisted on hosting a family dinner. Just what I needed. Being trapped with people I was lying to and those I was suspicious of. The tension was thick. Margaret kept checking her phone, looking jumpy. "Everything okay, sis?" Derek asked. "Fine. Just work," Margaret muttered. I couldn't help but snore. Margaret's head snapped up and our eyes locked. In that moment, I knew she knew that I knew. Sandra, ever the hawk, didn't miss a beat. "Maya, dear, care to share what's so amusing?" she asked, her tone icy. "Oh, nothing," I replied, forcing a smile. "Just remembered a funny work story." The rest of the dinner was a minefield of loaded glances and thinly veiled hostility. By the time we left, I was a bundle of nerves that night, but I had made up my mind. I needed to confront Margaret. For the sake of my sanity and my family, I couldn't keep quiet any longer. The next day, after work, I cornered her in an empty conference room. "We need to talk," I said, my voice unsteady. Margaret crossed her arms defensively. "What do you want?" "I saw you," I blurted out. "Last week with that man." "What's going on, Margaret?" Her face went pale, then flushed with anger. You don't know what you're talking about, she hissed. I think I do, I insisted. Are you in some kind of trouble? Is it drugs? Money? Margaret let out a hollow laugh. You have no idea what you've stumbled into, Mia. For your own good, stay out of it. Or what? I challenged. Her eyes turned cold. Or you might find yourself in a situation you can't handle. This is bigger than you, bigger than all of us. Keep your mouth shut if you know what's good for you. With that, she stormed out, leaving me shaken. That night, I tossed and turned, my mind racing. Finally, around 3 a.m., I drifted into a fitful sleep. When I woke up to sunlight streaming through the window, something felt off. As I sat up, an object fell into my lap. I looked down and froze. It was a lock of my hair. Panicking, I ran to the mirror. A chunk of my hair had been crudely cut away. On the dresser lay a note, keep quiet, or next time it won't be just your hair. My blood ran cold. Sandra had been in our house, in our bedroom, while we slept. This wasn't family drama anymore. This was war. Fuming, I stormed into the kitchen, the lock of hair clutched in my fist. Derek was making coffee, blissfully unaware of the storm about to hit. Your mother was in our bedroom last night, I spat out. Derek turned, his face etched with confusion. What? That's impossible. I thrust the hair and the note at him, his face drained of color as he read it. This can't be right. Mom wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Threaten me? Cut my hair while I slept? Wake up, Derek. The argument that followed was brutal. Derek was trapped between disbelief and loyalty to his family, clinging to denial. There has to be some explanation, he kept repeating. But I was done explaining, done being the victim. I called Allison, my voice shaking with anger. I need your help, I said. We're going to expose everything. Over the next few weeks, Allison and I transformed into amateur detectives. We dug into Margaret's financial records, tracked her movements, even followed her a few times. Look at this, Allison said one afternoon, pointing to her laptop. Margaret's been making large cash withdrawals every month. The pieces were starting to fall into place. But it wasn't just Margaret. As we dug deeper, we unearthed dirt on Sandra too. I read through old newspaper clippings, my heart pounding. Holy crap, I muttered. Sandra was involved in a huge embezzlement scandal 20 years ago. It was all hushed up. The weight of our discoveries was staggering. This wasn't just about Margaret's secret. It was a web of lies and manipulation spanning decades. I knew it was time for a family intervention. I gathered everyone. Derek, his father George, even some extended relatives. Taking a deep breath, I laid out everything we'd uncovered. This has to stop, I pleaded, for all our sakes. For a moment, the room was silent with shock. Then all hell broke loose. Sandra stood up, her face twisted with fury. How dare you, you ungrateful little... She's lying. Margaret shrieked. She's trying to turn you all against us. Derek sat there, shell-shocked. George looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. What I'd hoped would be a moment of truth dissolved into chaos. Sandra and Margaret cornered me, spinning stories about how I was unstable, jealous, out to destroy the family. To my horror, people started to believe them. Even Derek looked at me with doubt in his eyes. Mia, he said softly, maybe you need help. This obsession. Obsession. I choked out. Are you kidding me? That night, I sat alone in our bedroom, the house echoing with emptiness. Derek had taken Jack to stay with his parents until things calmed down. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, at the uneven patch of hair slowly growing back. How had it come to this? I tried to do the right thing, to protect my family. Instead, I'd lost everything. For the first time since it all began, I broke down and cried. Sandra and Margaret had succeeded. They isolated me, made me look crazy. I was alone, defeated, with no idea how to fix this mess. As I sat there, surrounded by the ruins of my once perfect life, I wondered if there was any way back from this. Had I sacrificed everything in my quest for the truth? The phone rang, breaking the silence of my despair. It was George, Derek's estranged father. Mia, I believe you, he said gruffly. Meet me. We met at a rundown diner on the edge of town. George slid a thick folder across the table. It was filled with evidence of Sandra and Margaret's schemes. I stayed quiet for too long, he admitted. As we pored over the documents, a plan began to form. The upcoming family reunion would be our stage. We need irrefutable proof, I said. George's eyes glinted with determination. I'll handle that. On the day of the reunion, my heart pounded as I stepped into Sandra's meticulously decorated backyard. The air buzzed with anticipation as Sandra began her welcoming speech, oblivious to what was coming. George worked quickly, setting up a projector at the back of the crowd. The screen flickered to life, cutting through the chatter and silencing everyone. We presented our case. Emails, bank statements, and recorded conversations appeared on the screen, each piece more damning than the last. Margaret's money laundering scheme was laid bare, followed by Sandra's long history of fraud. The final blow, a recording of Sandra and Margaret plotting to frame me for embezzlement. Once Maya's gone, we control Derek's inheritance, Sandra's voice declared, cold and calculating. The crowd fell into stunned silence. Then chaos erupted. How could you? Derek's voice sliced through the noise, filled with disbelief and hurt. Margaret was the first to crack. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she sobbed. Mom said it'd be easy money. Sandra turned on her daughter, snarling, You ungrateful fool. After everything I've done for you. But the truth was out, and there was no escape. The authorities arrived, and Sandra and Margaret were led away in handcuffs, their faces etched with defeat. In the aftermath, apologetic family members surrounded me, offering hesitant words of support. Derek approached, his eyes brimming with remorse. Maya, I'm so sorry, he whispered. Can you ever forgive me? I looked at him, seeing both the man I loved and the one who had doubted me. We have a lot to work through, I said honestly. Over the next year, I focused on rebuilding my life. My career soared as I regained my footing, and Derek and I entered counseling, slowly piecing our relationship back together. It wasn't easy, but we were committed to healing. One afternoon, standing in my new office, I received news of Sandra and Margaret's sentencing. A weight lifted from my shoulders. I turned to my desk, where a photo of me, Derek, and Jack sat. We were smiling, genuinely this time. The perfect facade was gone, replaced by something real and honest. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours, and that was better than any illusion ever could be.